I raised my hand eventually and just talked about what it meant to me at a higher level. And when I say higher, I mean actually like an elevation, so bigger picture. For me, spark, what brings you joy or gives you hope or gives you energy, it's a survival mechanism. And I realize that I speak in survival terms. I think in survival terms. Like, I have spent my entire life trying to weed out the details and get to the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter is survival. And it's always been really curious to me how I've made it. And so I talked about how spark, it could be like you're looking forward to a cup of coffee in the morning and that brings you joy. So make sure you add that into your day, so you keep your spark level high. And so for me, that spark it's what keeps you alive. And I brought up the statement that was made to me, I think now it's got to be like 2-3 years ago now, by a counselor that was seeing both me and my ex-husband as we were trying to like figure out stuff. And eventually my ex quit going and it was just me. And the counselor said to me, with all the things that we've talked about here and the way that you were brought into the world, the way that you developed and the stuff that you had to deal with statistically, and I've read these studies, it's the ACE study, Adverse Childhood Experience, and I've sifted through it and I've taken the test. And I'm not unique in any way. But so statistically, someone with the number of childhood traumas that I have, whatever, statistically, they're usually dead by now. And he listed off the ways, suicide, drug overdose, homicide. When he said that to me, the entire room stopped. It just turned, the world stopped. The room didn't stop. The whole world just stopped for a moment because I've never thought about it that way. Why would I? Why would I? That took a third party to bring my attention to that. And I thought it was pretty flippant. Like, you got to be kidding me. Because I've never come close to any of those. And I realize that the spark in me in those really dark times, and I'm talking black, just the bleakest of moments, what kept me alive was my ability to find joy and spark in the darkest of times. And I think as I'm talking it through, I think a lot of those things were what I call negative happiness. So negative happiness is, there's basic needs. So there's a line, and that line is basic needs. And above that is levels of happiness. And for me, in those years where I didn't have my basic needs met in many ways as a developing teenager, I was below that line. And anything, that brought me any closer to that line was joy, was the spark. And I recognized that very much so. That negative happiness where, someone offers you, you can, just stealing food from the place where I worked. I don't know if that brought me joy, but it helped me survive. And that kept me going. I guess that's not happiness in its true sense. It's really hard to think about. It's hard to think about and talk about because my life started off very, very normal and I would say privileged, in the way that, we had a house. I lived with my mom and my dad and my brother, and we lived in a house on my grandparents' land. My dad and my grandfather and mother built the house, and it was big, and we each had our own room, and we lived, and my dad was an engineer. He was friggin' smart. And I'm guessing we made decent money. I don't know. I lived normally. I went to gymnastics practice, and things were great until they weren't, and so yeah, okay. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so the negative happiness. So I was thinking yesterday when I explained that to the room, that spark in general, this energy that keeps us going, it's a survival mechanism, and we all deserve it, we all need it. And if we deprive ourselves of it, we're going against our desire to be alive. And our desire to be alive is not, something emotional. It's something, every being on this planet has a desire to be alive. You see plants that reach for just a shard of light to survive. We do that too. And we're the only species that I know of, in my limited view, the only species that I know of that commits suicide. And I feel like it is, first of all, that's abnormal. It's totally abnormal. And I'll argue that even the thought of suicide, even if you don't do it, but you're thinking like, I could jump off a bridge today. That's abnormal. Also, self-harm, negative self-talk, that's abnormal. And again, there's no other species on this planet that I can think of that engage in any of those behaviors. And so what is it about us? What is it about us that we do that? And I want everyone to understand that, again, to go back to even the thought of suicide, you're already tipped way far into the distorted thinking, abnormal. It's totally abnormal, totally against the desire to survive, which is what makes this planet flourish. So why would a living being, any living being on this planet where the majority, 99%, wants to thrive and flourish, why would that one species be the one that, and it's rampant, why is that species the only one that has a very large portion of its population have a desire to die? For me, that's really, really interesting. And I have many theories. And on that note, and I'm not going to expand into those theories, that could be that's another day. And I kind of need to be in the zone for that one. Right now I'm sitting in the parking lot at work, and there's no one here, and my keys to get in are sitting on my desk inside. So I'll just wait. So love, for me, it's finite. And it's not lasting. And maybe, if I were a bear cub, and my mom, my bear mom, nursed me and taught me how to live in the world, and then started to separate and then put me out on my own, and I didn't have that continuing, I didn't call my bear mom on the phone on her birthday, and, didn't share Thanksgiving with my bear siblings and my bear parents. That just doesn't exist in that realm. I mean, there are, again, I'm not a know-it-all, far from it. There are pack animals that are very social, that take care of elderly and raise up the young in a group. And we do that too. I guess my point is, and I always undermine everything I say because I know that it's so nuanced. There's so many details. I don't know everything. And I've been taught that, in my philosophy studies, that we really know nothing. I'm just observing. That's all. I really don't like know-it-alls. They really bother me. Anyway, where was I? Love is finite. So I guess if I were a bear cub and I was out on my own and my mom didn't call me on my birthday, I wouldn't feel bad because that's not expected. That's just not part of who they are. So I can live with it. I guess my point is I can live with it. I can live with the fact that is my framework. I understand that framework is abnormal amongst our species. It might be an anomaly in the world, but it is part of who we are. And in that sense, I stand out. I stand often alone, even when I'm around hundreds of people. And it's why I feel like I'm acting alone sometimes. And that's where people are like, what's the matter with you? Why do you think you're here by yourself? I'm here too. Recognize me. And it's not an act of outward disregard for others. It's a response to being disregarded. And just talking that through right now. Again, this is my art. This is how I function in the world. This is how I get by. Just talking this shit through and coming to these conclusions that I've never thought of before. And you just happen to be witness to it. And why do I need a witness? Well, because living in my head by myself is really, really hard. And if anyone can gain anything from what I say, that's all. If anyone can gain anything from it, then this is my act of love, I suppose. And I realize on an intellectual level that love is very important. And I do love. I have the capacity to love. I love my children to death, and that's a very overused statement, but and other people, to see other people thrive and to watch them live out good lives and be happy, that is everything to me. Because I know what it's like to not have that. And I'm getting, it's like almost 30 minutes that I've been talking. And I've got a big secret. A big secret that I keep hidden and locked away. And I can't talk about it openly.